Welcome back to Commodity Classic in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're joined now by some folks from Syngenta. We're going to talk about a couple of things. We'll talk seed treatment in just a moment, but first we're going to talk about a corn output trait for ethanol. And we're going to talk with the head of stewardship for Syngenta, Raj. And here we go. I'm going to let you say your name.
Iragavarapu.
Now, see, I would have said it pretty close to that, but probably not nearly as well. But thanks for joining us. Let's talk about Inogen. I mean, wow, we are ramping up ethanol production in this country, and we need the traits to help us do that, to best come up with ethanol production, and Inogen is the way to do that?
That's correct. Syngenta is really excited to bring this first biotech output trait that benefits the ethanol industry. So we got deregulated a year ago in February, and we are really ramping up in northwest Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas geographies right now.
Okay, what makes this trait so important for ethanol production?
Typically, an ethanol plant has to buy a liquid alpha amylase enzyme in their process to hydrolyze starch. So what we did, Syngenta, with our state-of-the-art technologies, is we built the enzyme right into the kernel itself. So that way the ethanol plant need not have to buy the enzymes. And so it's a built-in technology that helps the local farming community.
So you're planting Inogen then with ethanol production in mind, but what about for other uses?
Well, part of the kernel, it could also go to feed DDGs, distillers dry grain. So it is not all going to the ethanol. But what we have seen in these trials at the ethanol plants is it really improves the efficiency, improves the throughput, this amount of solids that we put through the system. At the same time, improves the energy, cost savings, water savings, and also our studies show that about 10% reduction in carbon footprint for the ethanol plant.
So a lot of advantages, a lot of things that up till now, they've had to try to do at the plant. Now you're doing it in the corn plant itself.
That's correct. That's why it's such an exciting technology. It's coming all in the corn plant. And then we're putting the money back in the local agriculture community by doing this. And this will lead to less and less dependence on foreign oil.
Now, where are we at in the development and the planting of Inogen?
Yeah, it was deregulated a year ago, and we are growing about 22,000 acres this year. In 2012, growers will be planting about 22,000 acres. We are in northwest Iowa, we are in northwest Kansas, and in western Nebraska geographies.
And as far as yield is concerned, will we see any difference with Inogen than other corn?
No, this corn yields just like any other regular corn, and it looks the same, it yields the same, so you will plant about the same planting rate, you put the same amount of fertilizer like you do for normal corn, and you would manage it just like normal corn. The only difference is because it has a unique benefit to the ethanol industry, the growers will have to follow some practical but simple stewardship practices. That is segregating and isolating this grain from their number 2 yellow grain.
As you know, this is going to go for ethanol production. We use for ethanol and for DDGs, so you manage it accordingly.
That's correct. So, like I said, the benefit is to the ethanol industry. So, how the system works is the ethanol plant contracts growers in their draw area, and so that's why we want all the production to go to that particular ethanol plant. So the growers will have to have on-farm storage to keep the grain and provide the grain to the ethanol plant as they need it.
Very interesting. All right. Now, also joining us is Paul Peterson, Seed Care Technology Manager for Syngenta. We're going to talk seed treatment. Paul, thank you for joining us. What do farmers need to keep in mind about the advantages of seed treatment?
Well, I think it really has changed dramatically. We first really started using seed treatments 15 years ago, and we started with a simple, basic fungicide. Today, our premier fungicide, insecticide, nematicide package on corn, a Victor Complete Corn, has 6 active ingredients in it. Give you triple protection against early season insects, diseases, and nematodes. You start getting more consistent value out of these seed treatments, particularly on soybeans. We don't look at a seed treatment as an insurance anymore. If you talk to a farmer 5 years ago, he thought about, well, we want to protect the stand so we don't have to replant. Now you get yield out of it more consistently. So it's another technology that really helps you get a higher yield. So it's an exciting time, and the next 10 years is going to be a heck of a ride, I can tell you that.
That's interesting. I mean, you're right. It used to be thought of as some kind of just insurance in case I need it, to kind of protection. What you're saying is now it's an accepted part of high production.
Well, I'll give you a good example. So on soybean, we know soybean can compensate for space. So if you lose 3,000 or 4,000 plants, you may not see a response in yield. So a lot of times when farmers ran across the field, and if they just use the basic fungicide package, they may have a little bit fewer plants, but you get branches and maybe a little bit more pods on a plant, and you got them with the same yield. Now we start using our premier insecticide package, so Cruiser, with a fungicide which is called Cruiser Max. But now from this year we also brought out a Victor, which is the nematicide, so you get a Victor Complete Beans. So if you have nematodes feeding on your roots and you have insects getting into your field, that can show up as a big yield reduction, even though if you have the same number of plants or differences in plants a little bit. So that's why it's a technology that gives you more yield, not just protecting the stand, but it helps you protect you against these biotic stresses that will occur early in the season.
So that protection, especially at the prices the way they are now, that pays off.
Oh, it's, on corn we are 100% right now. We treat every corn acre. Soybean we are around 60 to 70%, and I believe in a couple of years we're going to be close to 100%. Farmers know that the technology is there, it works. They know the genetic yield potential is much greater than what they're harvesting on the farm. We are losing yield early in the season, and this is a perfect way, fit very well into their production practices. These farmers covering a lot of acres, they don't have time to go out and do the early scouting and check out of that. And it is in the bag, it is in the seed, you put it in the ground, and it is inside the plant. So it's a very, very safe technology to use there as well.
That's a good point too. Yield lost early in the season, you may not get back, and you look at the end of the year and you say, what happened? You might be able to trace it all the way back at the beginning of the year. A lot of times you think of what happens more middle or later in the growing season, but it could be traced back to the problems very early, right at the beginning.
Well, that's exactly right. Yield is made much earlier than most farmers believe. And if it is weeds or you get a foliar insects or foliar disease, we have solutions to fix that. But a lot of time, things like nematodes, you cannot, as soon as you put that seed in the ground, it's up to Mother Nature what's going to happen. So with our resistant genes, so in soybean we have very good portfolio with resistance. With the seed treatment, you get a broad spectrum, multiple mode of actions to battle those nematodes, because as soon as that seed is in the ground, it's hands off, you can't do anymore.
Amazing technology to help maximize the efficiencies and the yields that we're shooting for in agriculture today. Again, our thanks to Paul Peterson, Seed Care Technology Manager for Syngenta, and Raj.
Uragavarap.
That's what I was going to say. All right, Head of Stewardship for Syngenta as well. Thank you both for being with us. All right, we'll take a break. Back with more from Commodity Classic on AgriTalk Online.